That night, Janine was getting some schoolwork done. At around 4:30 a.m., she made a wake-up call to a guest. Then, at around 5:30 a.m., just after sunrise, a nearby farmer calls police to report hearing two quick gunshots. Shortly before 6 a.m., multiple guests report to the police that they're attempting to check out of the hotel but are unable to find a clerk. About 30 minutes later, another farmer calls the police. He had found the body of a woman in a frozen ditch 20 miles from the hotel. She was wearing nothing except for her socks and shoes, rings and earrings, and she was shot 3 times in the back of her head with a .22 caliber gun. Pretty soon after the bodies were discovered, the Indiana State Crime Lab determined that the same gun was used in the death of Peggy and Janine, but they didn't link Vicky's death until decades later. In 2008, Elizabethtown Police Detective Clinton Turner submitted a DNA sample from Vicky's Heath crime scene. This alerted him that the sample matched DNA found at the 2 other scenes, and, when placed on a map, all of the attacks lined Interstate 65, which led to the offender being dubbed the I-65 killer. They also attributed another reported crime to the same perpetrator. In January of 1990, an unidentified night auditor at another Days Inn in Columbus, Indiana, was sexually assaulted. She gave a description of the man, and a composite sketch was created. He was 6 feet tall with greasy hair, green eyes, and right lazy eye. But even once investigators had linked the 3 murders and included the eyewitness description of the suspect, this would be a long road. It wasn't until 2022, 3 decades after the murders, that the DNA was able to be used in genetic genealogy investigation. ISP requested the help of the FBI, who matched DNA samples from the crime scenes to Kentucky native Harry Edward Greenwell. According to Sergeant Glenn Fifield of the Indiana State Police, the DNA match was 99.9999% positive. Greenwell died of cancer at the age of 68 in Iowa in 2013. According to ISP, he had an extensive criminal history ranging from the years 1963 to 1998. Even though he will never receive justice in the form of a prison sentence, the victim's remaining family members say that just knowing his identity is enough for them to begin their last stages of healing. Diane Dawn. In 1988, Diane Dawn was 29 years old and living in Santee, California, just north of San Diego. She was described by her sister to be a great mother, and lots of friends and family members described her as a goofy, funny person. She was also a talented musician, known to play the violin and the guitar, and she loved to draw. But on May 2, 1988, when she didn't show up for work at the San Diego Transit Corp, her co-workers found it strange and decided to visit her home to check on her. Diane's body was found by this co-worker, bludgeoned and stabbed to death, and her 2-year-old son was found unharmed, wandering around the apartment. Police began an extensive investigation right away to catch her killer, but little was uncovered, and for the next 34 years, her murder would remain unsolved. After the murder, Diane's son Mark was adopted by a family friend, but visited his biological family as often as possible. Even though he was only a toddler, he still, of course, struggled with the loss of his mother. Looking back, some of the struggles you go through is you feel alone because of what you went through. You lost your mother, he told police. You know you have family who loves you, but sometimes you do feel alone all the time. In the early 2000s, after decades passed with no answers, the investigation was reopened but hit another brick wall.